Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
And I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
And I'm really excited about this one. I have a very old friend here to join us. We'll be with you in just a moment.
I thought you were the same age.
So way back in 2015, in February, I remember getting an email from the GSA coordinator. It used to be the Gay Straight Alliance, but now they talk about it as Gender Sexuality Alliance at the local university. And I was just dealing with my own gender issues. And she sent me an invite to something, she was calling it the Valentrans Party. And it was all of the people that were transgender that she was working with. And at that point, I was not out yet. And I was very, very tentative. This was a whole scary world. And there were about 12 people that were invited. And I looked at the list of names, and one of them was an old friend from high school, my friend Vic. And I said, wait a minute.
This now, yeah.
What? Why is Vic on the list? And then I thought, oh! And then I thought, oh, I'm not ready. I wasn't ready. Oh! And then I thought, I maybe better call you and we maybe better have a conversation. And so we are here with my friend Vic. And Vic, you and I went to school together. We graduated from high school together.
Yep, same year, same thing, yeah. I remember you before you.
Yeah. I remember in fourth grade, you and I were in the school play together, and we did...
A Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Carol. We did.
Yes, I remember that too.
You were Scrooge.
And you
yes,
were Tiny
you were
Tim.
Scrooge. That's right.
Tiny Tim.
And we probably have some pictures of that, of you as Tiny Tim. And
We probably
Oh, you were
do.
Tiny Tim?
I was Tiny Tim.
Oh, very cool.
that was a
Did
fun,
you have to
fun
walk
show.
with a limp?
I think Jason actually carried me, didn't he?
I think he may have. I can see that. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
funny.
I was maybe 25, 30 pounds at the time. I wasn't very big.
Right.
Yep.
So, so sometimes I will joke that our town that we grew up in, our graduating class was like 52 people, I think.
I think you're really close to that. Yeah.
And so I will sometimes joke that our and you still live not in the town itself, but nearby, and just outside of
it's the same town.
a safe distance.
I'm a
outside
safe
of town.
distance outside of town. Yes.
Yeah, this was a town of 1,200 people.
Very small. And so the fact that you and I both graduated there, we're both trans, both in the same grade.
Same
I will
class, yeah.
sometimes joke that the demographics are so small we didn't want to throw things off, so we just traded.
Yeah, kind of.
So we've talked a lot on this podcast about my experience as a trans woman. I'm curious if you would just tell a little bit about your own transition and how you came to terms with being transgender yourself.
Well, let's see. I think I was always, ever since I was little, I knew I was different. I always thought I was one of the guys. And that's the way my parents, my mom and dad, they're awesome. They accepted me the way I was.
Right
ever
away?
Since ever since I was little. I was just Vic. I've always been Vic.
Uh-huh.
Not a big deal there. The difference was when I started realizing that I wasn't just a lesbian and just a butch lesbian, I guess, was when I finally came to terms with being transgender after I read Becoming Chaz.
Oh,
and
yes.
I identified so closely with Chaz.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, and it finally, my dots connected. It was like, and my wife was like, I was wondering when you were going to come to terms with this. Because she pretty much had already pinpointed it, but wasn't pushing me in any direction. She wanted to be
Did your mother sing like Cher?
Mom can't sing. Dad's the singer.
Before that, I remember when you were in high school, you were part of the football team.
Yes.
Was that difficult to get on the team?
No, Coach Fleckenstein actually asked me to go.
Really?
Yeah, that's a whole story right there. Yeah.
And what position did you play?
A running back or
yeah.
or a receiver, and I was away from all the activity. Coach
So
made
it
sure
was
that I was safe.
It was really a non-issue for you.
No, it wasn't really an issue.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Coach was awesome about that.
Uh-huh.
And I know some of our mutual friends said when you came out They said, well, we all knew. We were wondering when you were going to figure it out. When I came out, they said we had no idea.
Right.
Well, also,
Exactly.
you were 42 years old.
Well, I mean, we both
Both
were. Yeah, it was the
Oh,
same
you were
time.
42?
It was 42 when I finally came to terms of.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was the same timing. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So how did your family accept it then when you finally came out and said,
Believe it or not, my folks were really good. I couldn't put into words. I wasn't good at expressing myself verbally. So Megan, our therapist, suggested that I write them a letter. So that's what I did. I wrote my folks a letter.
Oh.
And my mom got through like the first page, and she's like, "I don't care. Pretty much, it's you are our child."
Yeah.
And it's been the hardest thing was the pronouns. They still, there's times where they'll use the wrong pronouns, and I, you know me as
Yeah.
she for how long. I'm not expecting you to switch to he like that. It's okay.
Uh-huh.
Easier now. Now that I have facial hair that's actually identifiable, not a problem. I very rarely have that issue.
But
now.
that was an issue with all of us. That was an issue with me, and that was an issue
It still can
with,
be, yeah. If you get excited and you start talking, yeah.
Yeah, and
It's-
sometimes all my life,
Yeah.
I had a son and a daughter, and it was difficult for me to really make that transition. But I really tried. I really worked at it, and I did the best I could. But I would slip up. I don't much anymore.
no, not too much, not too
no,
much.
it's
No,
pretty rare.
then how about with now you have, is it nieces and nephews?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how were they with everything?
Honestly, I think I have the best family ever because I've always been Uncle Vic, so it's
Oh,
never
cool.
never been a problem. And they treat me the same as they've always treated me, so it's nothing new to my nieces and nephews.
What about other extended family? Grandmas, grandpas, that kind of thing. Uncles, aunts.
Well, my grandma is I think 96 now, and I'm not sure how she sees it. She doesn't. I'm just Vic to her, so.
I have a
She's
sister who is
kinda that way.
96.
Yeah, she's there, but she's not. I'm just Vic. So
Yeah.
and she had a hard time with me and my wife Sarah started together. She didn't get it quite. The two girls being together, and then after a while, it was just brother. She just went with it. She's like, whatever. And I think that was a big thing for my mom was helping my grandma understand,
Oh yeah.
and that was a big part of it. But as for extended family from there, I don't think they have a problem with it. I've never heard them have a problem with it, but some people are quiet around here, so they might not say anything.
You said early on in the beginning of this podcast, you lived outside of Iola for a reason. Tell me about that.
It's nice and quiet out there, and we're not bothered. I like having my space where I didn't have to worry about things, and I have a beautiful property now, so I can't complain.
But I wondered if you were getting any pushback from the community.
No, not that I've had.
Oh.
But then again, I'm not in the public eye really
Right.
at all. I go to work and then I come home. It's not like I'm not out in the community doing like community based stuff. I think if I was more visible, there might be an issue, but I'm kind of that stealth guy. They know of me. They know, I was the girl that played football and that.
Yeah.
They know I'm still around, but the people that care, they come out and they'll ask me stuff. But
But otherwise, if you go shopping, you go to the grocery store, nobody looks twice.
No, it's Vic.
Yeah.
If they
Yeah.
know me, it's Vic. Here in town,
And you've been Vic
forever.
since forever.
Yeah,
always
that's
been
true.
Vic.
Yeah. So that was not
It's
a
kind
big
of like
change.
Pat from Saturday Night Live. That was pretty much me growing up. Yes.
Would it bother you if you heard your given name?
If it's done negatively, yes.
Sure.
If they're doing it to get a rise out of me and they're just really trying to make me mad.
Yeah.
And I've had that. I had a coworker that did that to me,
Oh, really?
and I just told him to stop. I said,
Yeah.
"It's not okay. It's not funny, and you're making
Right.
me mad." And he chilled out after that.
Well, I ask about that because I know nearly everyone has that same issue.
Yeah.
And it's something that people out there who are trying to be funny don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, if somebody chooses their name because of their as we call it, our dead name, there's a reason it's dead.
Right.
That's a whole different life now. We want to leave that behind us. We are starting our journey as the true and authentic self that we feel we are. And by going through our transition, at least I feel that me going through my transition, I'm finally coming in line with my brain and my body are coming in line.
Yes.
So you're working in the major industry in Wapaka at the foundry.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. How was that received? Because you've been there a long time, right? How long?
This is 18 years now.
So you were there now, and now you've transitioned like 7 years ago?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so you're looking at longer there as pre-transition than transition. So a lot of people got to know you, but then there's a lot of newer people. So how did that dynamic work out for you, especially at first, and then how is it now?
It's interesting. It helped that I changed departments.
Oh.
Because
Most of the people who work there only interact with the people in their department.
for the most part, because you're so, like, the core room is its own space and the VMM is its own space.
Yeah.
There's some different departments, and yes, you cross and you see each other, but you're not working with them every day.
I understand that.
So when I moved into the sand lab, I'm in my own little like world up there.
Uh-huh.
When I was in the core room, I was a lot more visible. So a lot more people came and seen me, and they knew me as Vicky, whatever, and female and lesbian, because I was out, because I didn't care.
Oh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
And that group of guys is still working down there. A lot of them, the first shifters.
Yeah.
So I'll go through, and they see me with my facial hair now, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're transgender. You're him now. You're he." And a lot of those guys, if they like me, they still come up and talk to me. They have their pronouns. They're very nice to me.
And they're accepting.
Yes, very accepting. Thank you. And even now with the newer guys, because I pass and I'm stealth, new hires don't know unless I tell them.
A lot of people don't know that term. What does that mean when you say you're stealth?
Stealth
or
meaning
passing?
is passing. Is basically that if I don't want to tell somebody that I'm transgender, I won't, and they wouldn't know the difference.
I'm sure that's true.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they would have no clue if they walked in the bathroom and seen me in there.
I think you're at that stage now, Raya, but you weren't at that stage at the very beginning.
No, I think it was actually pretty quick. I think that, and you may have noticed this as well, that there's a spectrum, that there's some things where if you just go about and act in the way that you're expected to act, people treat you the way that they're expecting you to, however you expect to be treated is how they treat you, because honestly, most people aren't paying that much attention to you. They're paying attention to themselves.
Exactly.
And until they look closely, they don't even think twice about it.
That's true.
But I think that for both of us, then I think hormones help, and and obviously when you're on T, it does things to your body.
Oh yeah.
Talk about a little bit about that. Actually, what sorts of changes, as much as you feel comfortable?
Oh, I'm open, and that's what I tell anybody that comes and asks me stuff. The biggest changes when I first started taking tea was it was like going through menopause, because your menstrual cycle stopped. So then all of a sudden I'm getting hot flashes. I'm like, I used to be always cold. Now I'm like, oh, it's too hot. Oh my gosh. And and then my voice started to get deeper. I know it's still a little bit higher than most guys. I don't care. It's my voice. But it is definitely dropped, and it's different. And, I can't sing worth a hoot anyways, so it's not like I need to hit any high notes.
Which is one of the things I've always been jealous of, because once your voice drops, your voice drops for good. So that meant for me, once my voice dropped, I have no way to get it back. Hormones don't do
No,
anything.
you don't.
But for you, you get to say, okay, then your body went through all of the changes that a teenage boy's body
Oh yeah,
goes
it was
through.
definitely a second puberty, and it was not fun.
You said the same thing.
I did. I think it's hard being an adult and knowing what puberty is like and then experiencing it and thinking, well, no, but I'm an adult now and I shouldn't be going through these mood swings like I am.
The acne, the mood swings.
All of those. And yeah.
Temperamental. Oh, just like you just say the wrong thing and it'll set you off.
Well, I can remember that very well.
You become very emotional very quickly.
And then you think, I remember a trans feminine friend saying with being on estrogen that she started crying one time because a cat looked so cute. It's just a sort of buildup of emotions. And
Well,
I think
and testosterone did the opposite for me. Because I went from being able to get emotional like that, it's harder for me to cry now. Because the testosterone has changed that dynamic.
Wow.
It's weird because it takes a little bit more for me to actually get tears. I get upset, but I don't have the actual tears that'll start flowing so fast like they did before I was on testosterone.
In an organization as big as the Foundry is, are there other trans people there?
I'm sure there is.
But you don't know. And
No,
it
I
didn't
don't.
matter.
Not now.
What about
well,
when
it must be because I'm sharing a locker room now.
Oh.
I've never met the individual.
Yeah.
It's just that once I came out to the Foundry as being trans,
Yeah.
and I said, there's going to be, and I told the Foundry and HR, I said, there's going to be a point in time that you're going to get backlash, and I'm not going to be able to go into the women's locker room where my locker room was.
Oh, right.
Because once I start transitioning and I get to a point and I pass as being male, now your incoming women coming into this locker room are going to get very uncomfortable with me being in there.
so. You didn't push. You didn't say, I don't want to be in here.
I just said I'm going to back away because I'm in the sand lab. I don't necessarily need a locker room. So I'm going to give up my locker room in the women's locker room. But just so you know, there's laws out there that if forced, you would need to provide a shower facility for a transgender person that can't use either of the restrooms. Honestly, they converted an office into a separate locker room. It's a general neutral locker room with lockers in it with a shower and a bathroom.
Wow.
So they did that so that we were all covered, and if they ever hired anybody but myself being transgender, they had a facility that those individuals.
And you
could
didn't
use.
get any objection from them at all.
Not from upper management. I got a lot of snide comments from some of the coworkers about getting my own space.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
How
come you have an office? I don't.
Yeah. Well, it was. Well, that's all right. I'll come shower with you then. Are you okay with me coming into the men's locker room and showering with you? Well, how do you think the women feel if I go in there? Well, you're a woman. No. I didn't know.
Interesting.
So it's a lot of that kind of mentality too.
How long do you think it took till? Because now you don't get any of that.
I do still.
You do still get.
I
some
don't hear
pushback.
it. That doesn't come directly to me anymore. I'll get it from the guys that get along with me, and they'll hear other coworkers talking.
Oh.
And they're like, this is what I overheard. I think you need to know that this is an individual that's saying this. And I'm like, as long as he stays out of my world and he doesn't come at me, I'm okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't really need to hear it.
I don't need to hear it. No.
I hear you.
And you are really probably the most easygoing guy I know. I don't know. I mean, it's very, very rare that you ever get. I mean, I know that there are things that will make you upset, but most things, like as we talk about this, I don't think most transgender people are nearly as easygoing about these things as when you tell these stories about just how easy, well, look, this is how I'm going to do things, and you're going to probably have to make things work, but I don't care so much. You really let things roll off much more easily than I think many people do.
Tell me this. If you had an opportunity to just talk straight to those people who are saying things and you're getting the second or third, if you had an opportunity to just tell them straight what you thought, what would you tell them?
That you have to be accepting about everybody. What if your kid was? transgender. Literally, you got to look at it from a family point of view, because you might not. A lot of these individuals are out of touch with how the real world is. They're not. They haven't gone outside of our community.
I
Okay.
understand that.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh,
Is they're
I
kind of
sure
very
do.
narrow-minded and very
Exactly.
In this community, there isn't a whole lot of diversity.
Correct.
And when we go outside, like when we went to college, when I went into the Army, there was a lot more diversity. My eyes got opened up once I got into the service.
Me too. When I went, I know
because
exactly.
I didn't know. I had no experiences outside our literal white community.
Well, it was interesting. One of my roommates, when I was in Japan, was black, and so the two of us, and I like to hang out with him. And there were people there that were really criticizing me because this guy was my friend.
Yeah, that's kind of the same kind of mentality I think we deal with in a small knit community.
First time I heard somebody say that to me, I was shocked.
Yeah, isn't it shocking?
Yeah, I was shocked. I couldn't believe that
they're just people
criticizing me.
We're all just people
because this guy was my friend.
Yeah,
I was really, to me, growing up here. It was kind of a cool thing, actually.
and
Exactly.
I imagine that some people feel that way with you at the Foundry, that it's kind of a cool thing. Like we've got,
there's definite, there's, as we call it, family. We have our LGBT plus community, and
yes,
they're represented in that Foundry. But because it's such a big organization and we're like a low key. But when you find your advocate there, and you find the people that understand and are really working there to help, it's awesome. Because there are so many people there that are understanding, and they really want to try to help you. But you got to find them.
So going back to your answer to my question, it's that you perceive these people as really being unexposed to anything like this before, and therefore they don't really understand.
Correct. I think it's underexposure. I don't think... Seeing it on TV is not the same thing as coming up and talking to me or Raya. Because if you had a conversation with either one of us, we're both very laid back. We're going to talk to you like you're just any other person that we know, unless you're coming at us in an aggressive way. We're pretty open. I mean, and if you're asking good structured questions, I know I have no problems answering them. But I also preempt it, like if you're asking me, have I had bottom surgery? It's time out.
Yeah,
that
we were just talking about that.
Can I ask you?
Yeah.
Did you have how'd that hernia surgery go?
Yeah.
How are those male enhancement pills working? You don't ask those questions. So what made it okay for you to ask me if I had bottom surgery? What made that click? Yes, I know it's curiosity. I get that. But let's be a little smart and respectful about how you're asking.
Absolutely.
And I'm all about answering the question. I mean, if they're genuinely asking me, and I'm like, it's not really any of your business, but if you really need to know, I can tell you. And then it's like, well, I didn't mean to offend you. And it's like, no, now I can mess with you because this is just fun now.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Do you have stories of times where somebody started off being skeptical or being more aggressive, and after they got to know you more, they sort of came around?
Don't have anybody right off the top of my head that's that way, but I've had confrontations, or not so much a confrontation. It was a discussion that was had while I was at work, and it was the big thing where transgender people in the service and how they should not be serving, or they should be out, and we shouldn't. The Army or the military shouldn't cover their surgeries. And this individual started this conversation with me in my workspace.
Yeah.
And he kept going on and on about it. And there was a couple other guys in there, and they're watching my reaction get heated.
Yeah.
And I wasn't saying anything. They just watched my body language. And my temper starting. And I'm like, I turned around and I'm like, look, dude, do you know where you are? You do realize I served, correct? You are talking to an individual that you're trying to exclude from serving. you can get out of my workspace right now.
Good for you.
Because I had it. And,
Yeah.
and the one coworker thought I was going to literally go across the room and just start wailing on him. I'm like, I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I will tell them to leave first.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the other way. Now you have a lot of new people coming in, and again, as you said, you're essentially stealth now, and unless it comes up, it's never going to come up.
Exactly.
But you have a lot of older people there. The people now I have the advantage that I went to a new job where nobody knew me, so I don't have that baggage of people remembering how I used to be. But you have that still with you.
Oh yeah, it's like
and
I
it's
never left
come
it.
right along. Now for the newer people, do you find do people come up to you ever, or is it mostly just a non-issue? Are they when they find out, do they come and say?
Yeah, our new group of workers that we have coming in, I think they're more well-rounded individuals because they're coming from outside of out of state. Because we have a lot of tradesmen that are coming in now, so we have a lot of minorities and stuff that we never had in the foundry.
Oh, that's right.
15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like when I first started there.
Right.
It was predominantly you had a waiting list to get into the foundry, and it was all community members that were running it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting people from Florida and Texas, and they're just everywhere coming in to work there. So you're getting all these different people from all these different backgrounds, and I love it because
Yeah.
it's so diverse. So there, and your question, no, I have no problems with the new people coming in because they don't know unless I tell them. Mm-hmm. They have no idea unless one of the older guys uses a wrong pronoun. And that's funny because I watched the new guy look at the old guy going, why did you just call him she?
Yeah.
And I just laugh and I'm like, you did it. You get to explain it, genius. I think that I've been there so long that they still see me in one role and not into a male role. So it's not like I got hired as a male in a different company and I would be, and honestly, and we still have this problem with women getting paid less than men in the fields. Mm-hmm. So have I gotten to experience that? No, because I'm still in the same place.
Yep.
So I hope that answered your question.
I want to thank you for coming here. And there are people out there that I'm sure would like to ask a question of you. So I'm going to encourage you to do that. We have an email address, and you can email us. And our friend Vic would be happy to answer your question.
Yes, absolutely. You can email transdescendant@gmail.com. And we watch those emails all the time. I'm getting emails constantly, all the time from people. And if you have a question for Vic, let me know, and I will pass that on, and I will be happy to share the answer with you.
We can bring him back to answer the question if it's that interesting, or we can pass it on. But I'm sure, Vic, you'll be happy to respond.
Yeah. I would be definitely happy to help you guys.
And any other feedback about the podcast as well. We would love to hear what you have to say. If you think this is great or if you think we're full of it, either way, let us know. We want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I think we're a little of both.
I think that's probably true.
One other thing I have to ask you out there is to really help us. One thing you could do, and I encourage you to do, it costs you nothing. On your podcast, there's a little button up on top that says subscribe. If you do that, that is going to help in the search engines moving us up in there. So we encourage you to subscribe. And it doesn't mean you even have to listen to the podcast once we do it. But we would really ask that you help us in that way.
And of course, you can subscribe anywhere where you get your podcasts. I listen on Spotify. Other people with iPhones will listen on iTunes. All kinds of other platforms. Anywhere you get your podcast, we are there.
And please pass it along to others. Encourage them to listen.